Good evening, everybody. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. I'm pleased to welcome you here tonight to the November 8, 2017 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. We pride ourselves in open government, and to that end, we're pleased to have you here. For those of you that are here in the room tonight, the meeting packet is on the back table. That packet has a copy of the agenda and all the supporting materials and all the matters that we're going to be taking up tonight. But we also, because we value your ability to participate in your local government, we stream these meetings live on YouTube. Some of you may be watching us tonight there, or on our cable access channel, channel 12. And for you that are watching remote, you can get all of that same information. The agenda, all the supporting material is on the town's webpage, townofbrighton.org. And you can follow along with us as we go through the night. Now we'll be going to our open forum shortly. I'll talk about that open forum in just a minute, but just a little housekeeping. If you are watching live on channel 12, and in the unlikely event that there is an outage or a glitch in the video or the audio, please call Spectrum at 756-5000. That's if you're watching the live broadcast Wednesday night, November 8th. Any problems, technical issues with Cable 12, call Spectrum at 756-5000. In case of an emergency, you'll hear the Town Hall emergency alarm system. Please exit the auditorium immediately, either through the exit door marked to my right. If you go out that door, turn right, down the stairs, out the rear entrance to Town Hall and go away from the building, or through either of the double doors in the rear of this room. If you leave through those doors, go through the lobby, through the main front doors to Town Hall, down the steps and away from the building. I'm going to ask now Councilman Vogel, if you would, to lead us in our pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm very pleased to ask Councilman Vogel tonight to do that. Obviously, Veterans Day is coming up, the 11th, but we will be observing it on the observed holiday of Friday, November 10th. And we will, as we do every year on Veterans Day, be holding our Veterans Day ceremony. This year we'll be recognizing the 5th anniversary of the dedication of our beautiful Veterans Memorial that, Jim, you were so instrumental chairing the Veterans Memorial Committee in making happen. That day that we dedicated it 5 years ago, Jim, it was 75 degrees. I looked at the weather forecast today. It's not going to be 75 degrees. It's going to be 25 degrees, and the wind is going to be blowing. We're very cognizant of wanting to protect everyone's safety, and we know how many people do want to come out to the Veterans Day event, particularly because this year, each year at Veterans Day, we honor a group or an individual that is making particular contributions to our veterans. And this year we will be honoring Honor Flight of Rochester. And certainly a lot of people have been served by that, so we do expect a lot of people. We're gonna, as we do every year, we're gonna do it out at the memorial. We'll be gathering indoors at the Buckland House. Once we get to 1 o'clock or so, for those of you that are able to get out in the cold and get over to the memorial, we will hold the ceremony at the memorial, and then there will be activities after the actual ceremony back at the Buckland House. So we want to get, we just don't want an unhealthy situation. The wind forecasts are 20 miles an hour with gusts at 25 degrees when we're not used to that. That's going to be dangerously cold wind chill. So, but we do want, I really want to encourage everybody, particularly those of you that have not had a chance to see the Veterans Memorial. It is a beautiful, beautiful work of art, and so I hope you'll join us. So thank you, Jim, for leading us in the pledge.
Sure thing.
We will now begin the open forum portion of our meeting, as we do at every town board meeting. You will have the opportunity to address the town board about any matter, whether or not it is on the agenda this evening. And if you're watching remotely, you can also participate in the open forum by calling 303-3060. Again, 303-3060. Someone will answer the call to take your questions or comments and pass them on to me. If you are watching remotely and you are deaf or are hearing impaired, you can call our TDD line at 784-5205. Our TDD line at 784-5205 to call in if you are deaf or hearing impaired during our open forum. I will note that if you are here to address, we have one public hearing on the agenda tonight, parking restrictions on Park Lane. So if you are here for that public hearing and would like your comments included on the record, I would encourage you to wait until that public hearing is called, which will be one of the first things we do, and then your comments can be included in the record. But otherwise, if you would like to speak during the open forum, I will recognize members of the audience. If you would raise your hand, please come to the podium, state your name and address. If you would please, as always, please direct your comments to the board and not to other members of the audience. Please be courteous and keep your comments as concise as possible, and I appreciate the fact that everybody does. We don't put you on an egg timer, and everybody's good about respecting the time of others. I would ask that as always, that discussions about particular town employees are also not appropriate during our open forum. But with that, the open forum is open. Is there anyone that would like to address the open forum? I do note, too, before we get started, it's great to see, I know we've got some Brighton High School law and government students here tonight. Great to have you all here. And, you know, that's something that I enjoy engaging with every semester, so it's good to see you here. Yes, sir, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Jason Zoglin. I live at 311 Rhinecliff Drive here in Brighton. I'm going to try to follow the rules as best I can. Some of the things I have to say are critical, but I hope they will be taken as constructively so and respectful. As probably many of you read, Brighton made the front page of the Democratic Chronicle on Sunday, October 29th, with the headline, Unconstitutional Arrest in Brighton Emphasizes Need for Local Bail Reform Measures, by Brighton's own Erica Bryant, who I thought did a wonderful job. I'm going to move up the ladder, and while I'm describing individuals that have certain jobs, I'm not interested in mentioning their names, and I hope that works for you. As this episode was caught on body cameras, which I recall was an issue that Brighton took pride in purchasing and implementing the use of the body cameras. The first disturbing part for me, which may be the most minor of them, was that during the arrest, the arresting officer used a bit of profanity. I'll quote here, turn around, let me see your effing hands." I thought this showed a lack of professionalism in public conduct. No, not that swearing really scares me that much. It just seems like an inappropriate use and something that could inflame a difficult situation rather than calm it, which I think is what police, I would assume, try to do. More significantly, after watching the video, to me, several times, to me it's clear that the arresting officer's story does not hold up. That he was menaced with a skateboard that the young man had, that he was assaulted, hit in the back of the head. I watched it several times, I've talked to others. I strongly would say that those claims are clearly not supported by the evidence in the body camera, supported by the evidence of the body camera. As disturbing is that when a supervising officer showed up on the scene, he can be heard saying fairly clearly, make sure when you write it up that you had more than just suspicion to tackle him. I tried, but I gotta say, I think it defies reasonable interpretation to claim that that was not an attempt to coach a younger officer into embellishing his report, knowing that this was a legally problematic arrest. Most troubling, and here I hope you'll forgive me, I am going to single out the chief, but I think he can take it. He looks like a tough guy. He's a heck of a lot bigger than I am, so.
Certainly can say whatever's
Yeah,
on your mind, sir.
I mean, and I mean it respectfully when I say this. It's all about improvement and caring about the town. So I'll go with the buck stops over there philosophy. Our police chief, Mark Hennison, disagreed that the arrest was improper. However, Judge Castro disagreed, and I'm quoting from the article here, in his December 13th ruling, Judge Castro ruled that the officer had no legal right to grab Campany. That's the young man involved. It was clear that the actions of the police officer exceeded his authority when he forcibly stopped the defendant. The police officer here had no indication of the commission of a crime. Since the officer had no reasonable suspicion, he had no authority to forcibly stop the defendant or frisk him. The chief also said that this interaction could have been avoided if the young man had simply complied with the direction of the officers. I'll state here now, I completely agree. There is no question about that. I think he would have walked away. But I would also say, how should I put it? This young man he's not your average Boy Scout. But in our country, justice is not reserved for those that are compliant or normal, whatever normal is. And as I said, the chief said he believes that the officer had a legal basis for his interaction. I can't say it any more directly. Here I believe the chief is wrong. Refusing to stop, to comply, is not a crime. And the officer's forcible arrest was unwarranted. Further, the chief said, I think the officer has an obligation to continue with the situation to find out who the individual is. The officer doesn't stop and drive away. He doesn't have an obligation to pursue an unwarranted arrest. In fact, he should not do so. And the option isn't to drive away. Perhaps he calls for some help if he thinks other help from another professional, or he follows him. He was coming to court here anyway. Maybe he could have just slowly followed him along to make sure no further trouble happened. So, the chief also mentioned that the decision of Judge Castro to rule that this arrest was illegal could have been appealed by the DA. Certainly factually true. But I do know a few people that hang around the courthouse, and it's pretty common knowledge that if the DA thought they could win on appeal, they would have appealed. I believe the DA saw that this was a case of a miscarriage of justice. They lost, and they moved on. I felt in this case that Mr. Campany, the young man in question, knew his rights better than our police, and he certainly knew them better than I did. If you asked me before this incident, if a police officer asks you, says, hey, Mr. Zoglin, I want to talk to you, which fortunately doesn't happen too often, I would stop, and I would assume that I had to stop. But I was wrong, so I learned something here too. This young man, exercising in his own unusual way his right as an American to walk away, having committed no crime. There's a quote in Ms. Bryant's article by the ACLU that said, for an officer to interfere with your liberty to move about, he or she should have a reasonable suspicion that you have been involved in a crime. If you are not under arrest, you have the right to calmly leave. Now, importantly, and I believe the chief will appreciate this part, I hope, the ACL warns against resisting an officer who is not respecting your rights. Don't argue, resist, or obstruct the police, even if you are innocent or police are violating your rights. Keep your hands where police can see them. Remember, police misconduct cannot be challenged on the street. So, I'm arguing not in favor, in support of this young man's behavior. What I'm arguing for is the respect of his rights. Mr. Campany spent 2.5 months in jail and reports that he lost his apartment, possessions, his work, etc. Brighton, our town justice, one of our town justices, early on in the process, denied a bail reduction, which was requested by Mr. Campany's attorney. I have to wonder if he would have done the same had he seen the video, had it been made available to him for his review. I don't know. I would like to think he would have. So as I said, in addition to a bloodied face, Mr. Campany spent 2.5 months in jail. And this pretrial detention, especially for citizens of modest means, was really the big thrust of this article. And this was an example, and it happened to be in our town. By the way, the cost of the inappropriate incarceration to the taxpayers of Monroe County was about $4,500. But, moreover, I believe we failed this young man, this unusual young man. We failed him thoroughly and completely in this instance. Could this all have been avoided if he acted normally? Sure, it could have.
Mr. Zoglin, I would just...
I'm almost done.
No, I wasn't even going to...
Okay.
I would just encourage you not to use adjectives of that sort about the young man in question.
What did I say?
That he described him as unusual.
Unusual?
I don't
don't think he would mind unusual.
If you would, just refer to him as
Mr.
Mr.
Campany?
Campany,
Okay.
or, yeah, I
Fine.
out of fairness.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So, sure, it could have been avoided if he had acted what most of us might call more normally. But again, in justice in this country is not reserved for the normal, or what we would call normal. So what do we do after an incident like this? Young man got a bloody face, Brighton got a black eye in the newspaper. That's the real question here. I'm not here to lobby for the dismissal of the officers involved. That's certainly not my call, and I have no inclination to do so. I'm not here merely to disagree with the chief, who I believe, I would say I know, is highly thought of here in Brighton and has been for some time. I am here to ask that we not hide from this, that we not sweep it away. Covering up mistakes is often immoral and always useless. Take it from me. I have some expertise in making mistakes. In this case, our police made a mistake. Let's not just move on. Let's make amends. I'm not a lawyer, but I would pay the $50,000 that the young man is asking, apologize, and be glad he's not asking for more. But more importantly, let's improve. Education is the key here, as it often is. Can we as citizens, our police, our town justices, our town government, learn from this unfortunate event? Can we use it as a teachable moment? We paid for the body cameras. We now have an opportunity to benefit from them. What education and training can be done to avoid this outcome in the future? What do you all suggest? What tangible, real action can we take to make sure that when we make the front page, it's about something positive? I have lived here long enough to see our town take stands on some disturbing incidents. Bigotry expressed at a high school soccer game, offensive flyers left on doorsteps, and many others. In each case, this town not only condemned the actions, but attempted to educate, to communicate, and to improve. And I commend you for that, all of you. I like that about this town. And if we face this incident head-on, we can do the same in this case. We can do better. In closing, I'm not from a background that makes me knowledgeable on the New Testament. But I looked a bit at Matthew 25:45 before I came here, which talks about how we treat the least among us, which I prefer to think of as the most vulnerable among us. And Chris, I'm going to ask you not to tell my parents I was quoting from the New Testament.
I think they'd be impressed.
Yeah, they might be. I'm kind of from an Old Testament background. Anyway, little levity never hurts us, right? So I had my own little teachable moment, both learning more about what my rights are as a citizen, challenges that the police have in making those kind of difficult decisions in arrest situations, and a little bit more how we think about those people that we might call vulnerable. So as we move forward, I would just say in closing, let us consider the most vulnerable among us as we educate and train and protect their rights as if they were our very own. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zoglin. I would note that Section 50A of the Civil Rights Law of the State of New York does apply.
Can I address,
but I'm going to just see if
Actually,
the chief would like to.
if I could just interject here. The matters that Mr. Zoglin was just talking about involve not only a police personnel matter, but also pending litigation.
Right.
I would ask that the board and the chief refrain at this time from making any response.
what I was going to say is that I'll be addressing the action that I took as the chief of police to the board pursuant to 50A of the Civil Rights Law as it pertains to police officers' rights. You make some valid points well taken. I plan on addressing a lot of what you just talked about to the board, and I want you to know I heard what you had to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during the open forum? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Alexei Tutnoff. I live on Roosevelt Road. I also saw this article in the DNC and was disturbed by it. And I'm looking forward to, and I'm willing to wait until this matter is litigated, but I would like to know at the end what action has been taken, so things like this don't happen again. I have young kids. My 13-year-old is taller than me, and he looks like a full-grown adult, but he should not be treated like an adult, like this young man seems to have been treated. And I would not want my children to be treated this way. I don't think that was respectful. I don't think that was a professional behavior, and I'm looking forward to hearing when this matter is all resolved, what has been undertaken, and I would like to know how and when that information will be available, so that I can come and ask questions at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Hearing none, we will continue with the agenda. Can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. The next matter on the agenda are public hearings, and as I mentioned a moment ago, we do have one public hearing tonight. It is the proposed Park Lane parking restrictions local law of 2017. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Has Supervisor, give me one moment. It's in the October 19th edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you. Legal notice having been given and I know posted on our bulletin board, I declare this public hearing to be open. I'll just ask our Commissioner of Public Works, Tim Keefe, if you would just very quickly address the scope of this proposed parking restriction, and then we'll ask for comments from the audience.
Certainly, Supervisor, I'd be glad to. What is being proposed before us is parking restrictions on Park Lane from house numbers 165 and 168, the north property lines of those properties, parking restrictions on both the east and west side of the street at all times.
And that's down through the cul-de-sac?
Through the cul-de-sac, correct.
Okay, it's a simple description, but it's a fairly simple local law. Thanks, Tim. We'll now, is there anyone from the audience that would like to address the board? Sherry?
It might be simple, but you know I can't resist an opportunity to get up here.
Well, it's always good to see you.
First of all, thank you very much for
If you
considering
would
this law.
just give your name and
Oh,
address,
I'm so
please, Sherry.
sorry. Forget the procedure. Sherry Kraus, 46 Park Lane.
Thank you.
And I'm here in support of this restriction. It is a narrow cul-de-sac lane, and we had always thought it was restricted, but what has happened, of course, is that as the Corbett's Glen parking lot on Penfield Road has become more and more crowded, we have begun to see overflow parking onto that cul-de-sac, which is creating, we believe, safety issues and other issues that will be remedied with this no parking restriction. So I'm here in full support of the restriction.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this public hearing? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Can I have a motion, please, to take action on this matter, and then we'll open it up for any comments from the board. Jim?
And in the matter before us here, I would move on this resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion. Again, as Sherry has described, this would prohibit parking in that area. I would note, as I think certainly everybody on the board knows, but I think it's important for the community to know, we are working with a citizens committee made up of some residents from the Corbett's Glen area, as well as some members of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, looking pretty globally, pretty holistically at Corbett's Glen and the use that it's getting, and recognizing our desire to make sure that it isn't, as people have said, loved to death, because it is a beautiful park. It's very popular. We want to make sure that while people enjoy it, that there's really a park there that can be enjoyed. So, any other comments from members of the board? We have a motion and a second.
Yes, this is clearly, as much as anything, this is a safety hazard as it exists now, because any emergency vehicles would be restricted or constricted from even access to many of those residents down in that area of the park, not to mention anyone in the park. So this is crucial that we consider this resolution in an affirmative way.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Any other
I agree with Jim and I agree with Sherry. This is, as we see problems developing and they're identified by neighbors, they're brought to us, and it's just a sort of action that will help fine tune the use of the park, we hope.
Those about, many may not realize, well, Park Avenue or Park Lane has a direct access down into Corbett's Glen from the north side of the park. And this is one of the unintended consequences of the popularity, as Bill said, of Corbett's Glen. It is a real beautiful nature park, but this is one of those unintended consequences of popularity, and as you said, loving it to death. So.
This is is it going to be signed?
Yes,
No parking?
Yes.
In this area?
Yep.
And not even the people who live there?
correct.
Good question.
Further questions? Hearing, sorry.
Hopefully that, I know that we've been reviewing various parking issues with respect to the popularity of this park. I'm hopeful that the Citizens Board will be able to come up with a holistic, global approach and solution to the parking issues over there.
That's the goal. Yep. Hearing none further, Dan, please call the roll on this motion to approve the local law.
Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Tim, for putting this together. Next, can I have a motion to receive and file communication?
So moved.
Second.
Tonight, we have correspondence from the county executive advising the town that we received a community development block grant. And really, this is a little bit different than some of the community development block grants we have received in the past, but it will be used to make improvements to enhance the accessibility from an ADA perspective at our town park on Westfall Road. Actually, we became aware of the severity of the accessibility issues. This is a building that was constructed before the ADA, so therefore it has never been required to formally comply with the ADA. There were some attempts made in the past to, put in a ramp and some other things, but it's one of our oldest parks, and this grant will enable us to put in a new sidewalk along the parking lot there, where you currently have quite an irregular asphalt sidewalk, build a better ramp, and I think really improve things. And interestingly enough, part of the reason that it became so important is a polling place. And last year, our election inspectors, in particular, identified some access problems there. So we made some temporary fixes this year, and I don't believe, hear of any problems with people having issues getting in there. But by next year, we will have made those improvements, and I think it'll be a step in the right direction for that park. So we have a motion and a second to receive and file. Dan, please call the roll on that.
Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Committee reports, community services. Chris?
Bill, our next meeting is October 15th, next week, Wednesday.
November 5th.
Did I say that? Excuse me. I wrote October. November 15th, next week, Wednesday, at 9:30, although I may have to adjust that time because of a conflict, and I'll hopefully work that out and put notice online.
Yeah, what are you suggesting might?
11 o'clock?
If,
Or depending on Mr. Lustig, perhaps 10:30, just put it off an hour.
well, can this, let's get the sound off on whichever computer that is, but
What I did.
I'd like to, if possible, just so the community knows, can we change, you're sure that, you need to make that change, or?
I have two appearances, one at 9 and one at 10, and knowing Mr. Lustig, he would take me early on the 10 o'clock calendar, so that would give me,
Well, let's then, I don't think the rest of us have our calendars necessarily to look to see availability,
Or I
but
could have-
let's move it to 11 o'clock.
my co-chair,
Let's just move it to 11 o'clock.
that would be a safer
day.
time, I think.
Yep. 15th, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, November the 15th.
Okay, good. 11 o'clock next Wednesday will be the next meeting.
I'll confirm the room with
Okay.
Becky.
Thank
It
you.
may,
It'll be
we
at
may
Brookside,
dip
I
into programming it that late in the morning, but I'll confirm tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thank you. Finance Committee, Jason?
Yes, the Finance Committee met last Tuesday, October 31st. Each of the items that was reviewed at the Finance Committee will be on tonight's agenda. The lion's share of that meeting was spent reviewing the new health plans that the contracts and the numbers came out through our health insurance carriers for several of those different benefits. The other items that we discussed were the potential need for actuarial services for the West Brighton Fire Protection District Service Awards programs. After further review with our internal auditors, that service will be performed by our internal auditors as part of their annual retainer, so we don't really need that additional expenditure. And also, we talked about declaring an ambulance as a ambulance fly car as surplus, and that's being reviewed actually by our highway mechanics to see the condition of that vehicle and to see if we can put it to use in one of our other departments. So that'll be reviewed at a future meeting. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday, November 14th. We meet at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Stage Conference Room, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks very much, Jason, and I do want to thank our stenographer who is here tonight. Always helpful. Public Safety, Louise.
Yes, the next meeting will be on November 14th at 8 o'clock in the morning, the downstairs meeting room. And I just want to remind people again about making sure that you have house numbers on your homes. We have a quote here that says, "There's safety in numbers. If we can't find you, we can't help you." That's the fire department, the police department, and the ambulance. And people have said, do we really need to have numbers on our houses? And I talked to the people in the assessor's office who are reviewing the homes in the town because of the upcoming reval, and they are amazed at how many homes do not have their numbers on their houses, and it's very difficult to find. And it says, I found that it says that statistics indicate that 1 in every 4 homes or businesses in New York State either do not have proper addresses on their homes or their buildings, and the numbers must be positioned in the front of your building so that they can be plainly seen and visible and legible from the street or road fronting the property. So it's a very important thing, and please, you can get the numbers. They have to be 4 inches high, and at least the numbers. They have to be numbers, not in writing, and not in Arabic writing, and 4 inches in height and at least half an inch wide for each number.
Thanks, Louise. Public Works Committee, Jim.
Yes, Public Works Committee met this week, and at that time, we had a number of residents that came forth for the open forum portion, and at that time, a discussion on drainage issues and town services was the topic. East River Road, the city of Rochester, that's one involvement where there were some questions with regard to appropriate drainage over in the depressed area on the side of the road. Also Susquehanna Road, and also Indian Springs Lane. The residents from each of these had confirmed that they had concerns about a various number of questions and issues. The committee confirmed that the Department of Public Works staff will follow up with the city, and Susquehanna drainage, as a question, is slated for construction, weather permitting, after the leaf season is over this year. And the subsequent discussions have been had with Highway Department relative to the operational activities in that regard. Under old business, we had a question about pedestrian crossings on North Landing Road, and the concerns are expressed that right there, there was not a school, child crossing for the North Landing area. They did not have the benefit of marked crosswalk. Well, the DP staff is going to be looking into that and see what is possible to do there. Again, funding opportunities that would need to be available. Also, sidewalks on South Landing Road. They reviewed the engineering report with one of the South Landing Road residents relative to the scope and cost, reaffirming the district would need to be established, which would involve all the neighbors, because those projects, as some should know, that we don't have a general operating funding for sidewalks throughout Brighton, simply because only about a third of our our roads, town roads, have sidewalks, and that would be a consequence of expenses to those who have no benefit from that. So that would involve a establishment of a district, and those type of costs would be reviewed with all the neighbors if in fact they would like to put in an application for the district. Any comments on that, Tim?
No, I think that's a
Okay.
pretty good summary.
All right, and then also a grant for the town park. Mentioned this before, that town has received a community development block grant award of $33,000 for the improvement at the Carmen Clark Lodge on Westfall Road that includes sidewalks and would put us in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we're looking forward to that. And under new business, we had a review of the Monroe County Hazardous Mitigation Plan, and the staff has reviewed that, and it has identified a number of hazards in the plan that would include flooding, severe storms under rain, snow, and wind, and so on. So that was reviewed very favorably. And then
It's
also...
on the agenda tonight for
Yes, right. Yeah,
our approval.
thank you. And also trees. Had a number of trees with these high winds that have occurred over the past month or so. Number of trees on Allens Creek Road, Bradford Road, Cheswell, Clovercrest, and Hampshire Drive, and also Southland Drive. These trees have been deemed that they need to be quickly referred to the Tree Council, which they have already been, for review and approval for removal and replaced with new trees. So that's still pending. Also, the incentive zoning proposal for 1925 South Clinton Avenue, we reviewed that at the meeting and determined it should be referred to the town for consideration. That is also on the agenda tonight. And with that, concluded our meeting. Our next committee meeting is Tuesday, December 5th at 9 a.m. in the lower level community meeting room.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go to new business now. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $577,476.49. Notable claims include to the Brighton Central School District in the amount of $69,015.34, representing the rental of the Brookside building for the year 2016. And it's actually a year behind because it's based on the actual expenses that are then prorated back to us, and then the capital improvements are then amortized over their useful life and then also prorated to us. That's the formula for that rental figure. Also to M&E Engineering in the amount of $11,700 for the evaluation of the HVAC system here at Town Hall. Also to Rochester Asphalt Materials in the amount of $27,654.43 for asphalt for various paving projects. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
The next item is to authorize a renewal of an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Pittsford for Brighton's provision of snow and ice removal or control on Allens Creek Road. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And the reason for this is Allens Creek begins in Brighton, then goes to Pittsford, and it comes back into Brighton again. So an intermunicipal agreement makes eminently good sense, and proper utilization of equipment from either town.
And it's an agreement that we've had in place for many years now, and we base the pricing on the reimbursement rate that we have from our county snowplow agreement. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I missed the second. My apologies.
Jason and Chris were
think he-
both buzzed in at the same time. We'll give it to
I think
Chris.
he edged me by a millisecond.
Sound, speed of sound.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is the reappointment of Casey Sacco and Mary Scipione as members of the Architectural Review Board effective January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Thank you both, Casey and Mary, for your service and for your willingness to continue. Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise, as long as we're doing appointments, keep going.
The next is to reappoint, the reappointment of Laura Civiletti and John Oskowski, give me all these names, it's difficult, as members of the planning board effective January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2024. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Who buzzed in first on that one?
Jason?
All right. Again, thank you, Laura and John, for your service. It's most appreciated. The planning board is one of our most important boards. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and I'm going to turn this one over to the board liaison for the Sustainability
you.
Oversight Committee. Chris?
Next item is for reappointment of Margaret Pete as a member of the Sustainability Oversight Committee effective January 1, 2018 through December 31, 2019. I move that we adopt the resolution to this effect before us.
Second.
Again, thank you, Margie. Does a great job. Very
It's very
passionate.
Very active and passionate is the
Absolutely.
operative word, I think.
Motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise, we'll go back to you for the last one.
The next one is the appointment of particular people as members of the Board of Assessment Review for a one-year term effective pro tunc from October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town. Should I name?
Sure.
The people that are being named are Carl Klein, Mary Katie Hanrahan, Mary Jane Mahone, Doug Mussinger, and Kristen Vandenbroek.
Thank you. Would we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks approval of various 2017 Recreation Department budget transfers to support purchase of particular recreational equipment. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is to address the issue that we discussed at our last meeting, the opportunity to repair some playground equipment, some slides that are older and have failed. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. The next matter is the incentive zoning application for the proposed development of property located at 1925 South Clinton Avenue. This is a matter that I have recused myself on, so I will leave the room. And Jim,
Yep.
let you act as chair for the discussion of
Do
this
that.
matter and
Yes,
come and get me back in the office.
we'll do that. And the matter before us with regard to an incentive zoning application for the proposed development of the property located at 1925 South Clinton Avenue. That's directly across from Tops Plaza. And Ken or Tim, you...
I think we were going to have the motion made, and then we can have some discussion.
All right, okay. So we'll entertain a motion for that application and that with the resolution.
Jim, I'm on the incentive zoning application for proposed development of the property located at 1925 South Clinton Avenue. I move that we adopt the resolution prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
All right, we can have a discussion at this point. Tim?
Jim, as you know, that this is an incentive zoning application, and some of the incentives that have been requested relate to density of the property, setbacks, a number of things as far as uses that are permitted, and it's all outlined in Schedule B of the application. One of the things in incentive zoning are the amenities. The amenities are primarily entail sidewalk extensions along South Clinton Avenue, Rue de Ville, and Elmwood Avenue to link up missing parts of the sidewalk network that are seen from the town's perspective as important for our community and our walking community. And that there's also been a negative declaration associated with the project after review from that perspective as well.
And the negative declaration is a good thing to the extent that that's an indication that there is no significant negative impact on the environment as a result of this development.
Yes, and just to clarify further, this is the parcel that Empire State College was considering for development a number of years back before the town encouraged them, and they took up residence over at the Westfall Road property that the state already owns.
Okay.
And let me just elaborate on two or three other additional items. First, with respect to the sidewalks, we've had good and productive discussions with the developer relative to the construction of sidewalks, not just in front of their project, but serving the entire neighborhood. And the applicant has agreed to construct the sidewalks, create the construction drawings, create the easement maps, and also provide a fund of money to allow the town to acquire those easements. So all of that is packaged together as one of the amenities. Another very significant amenity that is being provided by the applicant is an agreement to pay to the town an amount relative to the value of the property and what the taxes would be on the property. This project is to be a Comita project, and will have certain taxes deferred from the county and from the school district, and legally from the town as well, but the developer has agreed to pay what the town would otherwise be receiving as an amenity payment to the town as the project grows. And then lastly, and also not insignificantly, there is an agreement by the developer to construct a interconnecting path from its project to the Brookdale development, which is next door, the senior living community next door. So those are some of the other benefits of this project to the community, not to mention the fact that it's a great project, has the potential for bringing some nice tenants, some needed tenants into the town of Brighton and providing long-term tax-based growth for the town. So all of that is why staff is recommending that the town board tonight take positive action in approving the incentive zoning application. Attached to that application are a number of schedules that set forth the amenity agreement, the conditions of the project, and the incentive zoning regulations relative to how this overall development will be governed by the town as it is built.
As I-
Jason, Louise?
As I understand it, it's not a a trail between the Gables or what it's.
Brookdale.
Brookdale.
Brookdale,
and the-
senior
and-
community.
And then on the other side, near the daycare and the other property, it's a road that the cars can go back and forth as well as you can walk back and forth.
Right, it's, I believe, primarily for a secondary emergency access, and
Right. And
we do, I should mention, the applicant, Paul Colucci, who's the project manager-ish, Bill Dirtle, who is the vice president of the company that is, I don't remember how you guys are all connected. No, he's and of course, Ashley Champion from the Nixon Peabody firm, who is the attorney for the applicant, are all here as well to answer any questions the board may have.
in addition, there was, just to make it more clear from the legalese that he just said, the sidewalks on Elmwood Avenue that they're going to put in is going to be the parts from Westland almost all the way to Clinton. They'll fill in, there's some sections where there is no sidewalk.
It'll be from Fairfield, where we have sidewalks west of Fairfield back to Eastland, where we have no sidewalks.
I thought that and then there are
There are
sidewalks.
sidewalks west of that, yes.
And then,
There is a strip that, of Elmwood Avenue that will not still have sidewalks.
Okay.
And that strip runs roughly from just past, if you will, the 7-Eleven to
Loch DeVille on the north
about
side.
where Faith Temple's
Faith Temple,
driveway is.
Yeah.
That strip will not be, that section of land will not have sidewalks
and that's
constructed.
about 4 houses or something.
No, it's a little longer than that, but
1,100.
that was it was a
1,100
process
feet.
of negotiation, and what we're hopeful for is that if we are successful in managing the funds that are being offered by the applicant in easement acquisition, that the town will have the money to acquire the easements, hopefully, for all of the sidewalks, including that stretch, but we'll see how that turns out.
We'll see.
But this is something we've talked out at great length with the developer and the Ramsey Boehner, who took the primary lead as the town planner on this. And I think this is going to be a great project. This is a parcel that was unused, was going to go off the property tax rolls, and the DeMarco Group stepped up and have put together a project that they think is feasible and will put it back on the tax rolls, which that's a starting point that is very positive. I think the development itself is going to be positive, but it's also, I think, a classic use of incentive zoning. The incentives that are being provided to the developer make sense in that neighborhood, and it'll help develop this very important commercial corridor. The fact that they happen to own the property across the street is obviously why they have an interest there, but at the same time, the amenities that are being provided to the town link to the project itself. We're going to have connectivity on these sidewalks into their project and along Clinton Avenue. And also the access roads in the back will allow the folks over at Brookdale to gain access to the services within this project and perhaps gain egress at the light, which will be out front there as well. But more exciting to me is the development of sidewalks along Elmwood Avenue. We've had people here within the last 2 months come forward and saying, this is something we've really got to do something about, and this has been targeted for a while, and I've been very pleased with the DeMarco Group's receptiveness to the idea that they would make this contribution to the town in return for the incentives that'll be being provided. And our hope is that both with the sidewalks that they will develop and construct, and then we've still got about 1,100 feet that'll be left, that we will be able to find money, perhaps from other projects, perhaps other incentive zoning projects, who knows, but But if there's any surplus sidewalk money as we repair our sidewalks or get a very favorable price, that we'll be able to spot these in along this Elmwood Avenue and finally complete that connection, which has always been a gap in our sidewalks. And Elmwood Avenue needs sidewalks. It's a very heavily traveled street, and as a bicyclist, it's a real difficult
Jason?
Yep.
route.
I mean, getting back to the history of the property, yes, I know that this property was actually slated for development as Empire State College, that the state owned it at one time. The town board, rightfully so, identified the fact that we had the DDSO over on Westfall Road where the Empire State College could be located, and that's where it's located. Through their auction process, the developer purchased it. I know that there were some concerns raised about preserving some of the environmental characteristics of the parcel. However, given that it was going to be developed by the state one way or another, that puts us in a difficult position, that we really wanted to preserve this property to be put back on the tax rolls, which has been accomplished. And the developer has proposed to preserve, to the extent possible, some of the environmentally sensitive areas as buffers around the development. I also agree that the amenity package, which includes the sidewalks, is important. I know that we've had task forces through the years, Bike Walk Brighton, that have identified various areas where sidewalks and connectivity is lacking, and this is going to really help us check off a lot of those boxes, especially in that neighborhood. I'm excited. I mean, given the recent development over the Tops Plaza, the investment the developer has put in there, really to bring that up to date, I think that plaza looks 1,000% better. It looks very contemporary, and hopefully it's going to continue to attract tenants. Now with this project across the street, that'll be an opportunity for the developer to bring synergistic and complementary uses rather than competitive uses with one another. So all in all, I think this is a good project, and I'm pleased that we got to this point.
Now, this project has gone on for, Paul, why don't you come up to the mic here for a minute? This application came through when initially?
Initial Public Works meeting, I believe, was January of 2014.
2014. Now, just for the background of our residents, this is one of those things where the need for intergovernmental communications is imperative. When the state of New York came in here with their facilities, the property managers, and announced to us, unbeknownst to us until that meeting, that they had acquired this 11.5 acres directly across from Tops Plaza, and they were going to put in Empire State College. And I asked them, I said, what was the purchase price of this? Well, it was $850,000. And I said, no, wait a minute. You just purchased the 11.5 acres for $850,000. Do you realize that right around the corner, you have upwards of 52 acres that the state of New York owns? That's where the Developmental Disability Office operations is. And I said they have probably, without exaggerating, at least 20 acres of grassy land right there on the frontage of Westfall Road that I said would fit perfectly for Empire State College. And I said, did you ever consider that? And they meekly told us right here in this room, well, we never thought about that. And we suggested to them, maybe you go back to Albany, rethink this plan, and consider that, because what you've done is just taken 11.5 acres of our property for commercial use off the tax rolls. So finally, the state of New York came back, did auction the property off. DeMarco Group purchased it, thank goodness, and the rest is history. And what you've got here, in my opinion, is a model of how incentive zoning can really work. This was not exactly a smooth road the whole way, but through civil discussions between the company, in this case DeMarco Group, and the staff here, and us, we came down to a resolution to where I would tell you categorically that this is a win-win situation for the town and also DeMarco Group, and deservedly so, because this is the way incentive zoning can and really should work. And we are very open and transparent anytime we have an application like this, and it may take a little longer, but we promise here in Brighton we'll do this right the first time, not the second time. Thank goodness the state of New York did listen, and they did go back. And Empire State College, as you said, is now on Westfall Road. But this is an absolute model as far as I'm concerned. And we're excited about getting this going and completing this project, and look forward to the benefit for the residents of all these amenities. To have all this sidewalk, some of these sidewalks connected finally, on Rudaville and Lochteville, but also on Elmwood Avenue, as Chris, you were saying. This is, you guys are to be commended to how this has worked out with the town, really. Ken mentioned that, and Ken's been very much involved on the legal side, as well as Nixon Peabody, and I'd say a job well done, really.
Well, and thank
Any
you.
comments,
And
Paul?
yeah, we appreciate the effort that's gone into it. Like I said, our first meeting was back in January of 2014 after we had put together a plan for development and had a meeting with Public Works and then numerous meetings with staff to get to a resolution that you have before you that we feel is a win-win, like you said, Jim. So it's appreciated by us for all the effort that the town has put into this project and the consideration that you folks have given it.
And as Ken said, even though this could be a comedic project, County of Monroe Industrial Development, which will give some tax exemptions, DeMarco Group is still going to pay us in lieu of taxes tantamount to the same taxes we would receive if we had this on the full tax rolls.
That's correct.
Okay?
What is the time frame from now on?
What, for Comida?
No, to get the project going, to get it built?
So we're hopeful tonight. We have a positive vote, and I'm encouraged by the discussion so far. We have concurrently been running planning board. The planning board cannot act until this board renders a decision.
Right.
So we are before planning board next week, hopefully for preliminary overall site plan approval consideration, and then we would come right back with a final phase one. We would like to be under construction in the spring, and
Good.
our hope is that our first tenant, Doodlebugs, would be open January of 2019.
Okay.
Great. Good.
And I'll just clarify the record, because there was some discussion about when this proposal came before the town, and as your resolution before you indicates, actually the incentive zoning application was first submitted to the town in January of 2016, not 2014. So this board first saw it then, and then the developer modified it and amended it several times after discussions. There was a March 2016 amendment, a May 2016 amendment, a March 2017 amendment, and finally an August 2017 amendment. So it has developed, it has changed, and I'm very pleased with how the town board has worked to bring this matter to conclusion in a relatively expeditious manner, given the complexity of the project and all of the changes that we've seen to the project over the past couple years. So it has been a good working relationship, and one that everyone has put a lot of effort into.
Yeah. And the fact is, we'll now have a nice connected sidewalk along on that west side of South Clinton. The people in Brookdale are going to be able to come over to Tops Plaza safely, just walking.
Correct.
And cross with the light. And these things heretofore were not even in the consideration. So from that standpoint, again, I can't thank you enough. I think this has turned out to be a real model for other applicants to consider for what I would call a win-win situation, really.
And my compliments to Ms. Champion and Mr. Gordon and
Yes.
Ramsey for developing a somewhat complex agreement on a very short time frame so we can get this project moving.
Yeah, great. So, any other comments?
All set.
All right. All right. Well, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Done.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
You bet. Okay. I need to get the supervisor back in here.
Marking.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
You bet.
Get my computer back on here.
Down to the renewal agreement.
And we have a number of resolutions relating to our various benefit programs tonight. Jason, why don't I have you do each one of those, starting with the MVP?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute renewal agreement with MVP Healthcare to provide medical insurance to eligible town employees and retirees for 2018. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Okay, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with iMed Vision to provide eyewear vision benefits plan to all eligible non-represented town employees. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is a new program, but it's an employee-funded eye vision care program, and it's just really one more opportunity for us to offer a benefit, in this case one that the employees themselves will pay for, but many of our employees will find it useful, and as I said to them during our open enrollment meetings this morning, it's, you know, we benefit as a community. Certainly the town government benefits from having a stable workforce that has benefits that are useful to them, so we're happy to offer this new one. Motion and a second here. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I missed the second on that last motion.
Chris?
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Excelis to administer the town employees self-funded insured dental benefit plan for 2018. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And again, this is an employee-funded dental plan for employees that want to pay for a dental coverage. We have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
And the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Lifetime Benefit Solutions to administer services for the Employee Flexible Spending Account Program for 2018. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Again, continuing our flexible spending account arrangement. Dan, any comments first? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
And,
One last one.
One last one, yes. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute all documents and agreements with Excelis BCBS and MVP Health Plan Incorporated pertaining to the 2018 Medicare medical plans for eligible town retirees. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is authorizing the supervisor to execute an addendum to a contract with Platinum Limousine of Western New York for various day transportation services associated with the town's senior recreation program. I move that we adopt the resolution prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
And the purpose of this addendum, which relates to a modification in Platinum's permit approval from the state, simply requires both ourselves and Platinum to notify the state within 5 days of any termination of the contract. Comments, discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And finally, Jim.
Next item is to approve the adoption of the Monroe County Multi-Jurisdiction Hazardous Mitigation Plan. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is a plan, and we've discussed it in committee. The Monroe County and the municipalities within the county jointly are part of this hazard mitigation plan pursuant to federal litigation and the regulations adopted thereunder. And as part of that, to gain the benefits of this hazard mitigation plan, not only the county legislature has to approve it, but each constituent town and other municipality has to do so. That's the action we're taking tonight. The plan is a very lengthy document. There is a shorter executive summary, but very comprehensive, as befits the breadth and potential impact of hazards that we face as a community. Discussion?
Is this for acts of violence that may occur, or, I mean, hazard mitigation? What kind of hazards are you talking about?
Natural disasters. Tim, I don't know if you want to get into it, but certainly the range of natural disasters that face.
Supervisor, those are the predominant ones, but it also includes terrorism, hazardous spills,
right?
Things of that nature as well. But most of them are, if you will, acts of Mother Nature.
Okay. So if something happens only in a town, the town will use their own
equipment,
but not equipment,
resources.
but resources, but also the county. I mean, it will be together. You will have the joint forces that will.
Yeah, you're right, Louise. Collectively, and we do that now in some regards anyways between highway departments and sewer departments, but it would be a collective effort because you know that things that we experience tend to be on a greater scale than just the town of Brighton. So there is that collective, mentality there, yes.
Okay. I mean, what I was getting at is that we don't have to only rely on ourselves. When there is a hazard,
correct.
We can reach out.
We would work with other agencies and municipalities in the event of whatever crisis might come up.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor. I've already mentioned Veterans Day, but there are, really two important patriotic holidays this week, and the other one was yesterday, Election Day. I want to thank everybody that did vote yesterday. A lot of people to thank for, the fact that people don't talk about us here in New York the way they talked about Florida a few years ago, because our election process really does go quite smoothly, particularly when you consider the scope of it and the number of locations. I mean, in Brighton alone, we had
16 sites with 154 inspectors.
And it's those inspectors and their supervisors who work from about 5 in the morning to about 10 at night. That's a full day. They get paid, but it's not a large amount of money. But the thanks also go up the chain to you, Dan, the town clerk, responsible for the administration of elections here in the town of Brighton, and then downtown to the Board of Elections, where we are very fortunate and have for decades. The Republican and Democratic parties, the way it's structured in New York, there is a Republican Commissioner of Elections, a Democratic Commissioner of Elections. They work together. Then the people who occupy those positions change, but their ongoing commitment to work together to make sure that we have fair elections is really extraordinary. It's something you don't necessarily find everywhere. So really thanks right up through the line. Obviously, I want to express my thanks to the community for my reelection. I know Jim feels the same way, and I look forward to welcoming Robin Wilt, who is with us again tonight, who was also elected last night and will commence service on January 1st. talk about leaves for a minute. We began our leaf pickup, really the leaf-focused pickup, if you will. We continue to pick up other materials, but as of October 16th, our primary focus is on our leaves. As I think most people know, we collect leaves in bulk, the piles you see by the side of the streets, hopefully not in the streets, by the side of the streets is where they should be. We also pick up containerized leaves in the big brown paper bags or in trash receptacles. If you have small volumes, we really encourage you to containerize your leaves. They'll get picked up faster. We make our circulation through town for the containerized leaves more quickly. They're easier to get in the truck. A given truck is also able to hold more leaves. They get compressed as the Packer truck gets filled up. That's why they call it the Packer truck. It doesn't have anything to do with the football team. But obviously for big quantities, we understand it's a lot easier to just leave them in bulk. But again, please, we say this every year, and yet I drive and walk the streets of town and I see more piles of leaves than I would like to see, and other lawn and garden debris in the street. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, for openers, it's illegal. You can't put stuff in the street. It impedes the flow of traffic, it impedes the flow of bicyclists, and that creates a safety issue. When cars and bicycles are swerving to avoid leaf piles, can cause accidents. As we saw with all the rain we've gotten in the last 10 days or so, very, very heavy rain, those leaf piles in the street block the flow of water through the gutters and into our storm drains. They can actually clog the storm drains themselves, and when you get 2 and 3 inches in a day, as we have now a couple of times this fall, that, particularly in difficult drainage areas, exacerbates drainage problems that are in place. We don't like to give tickets for leaves left in the street. We don't like to stop the truck and give out warnings to people. But our drivers do that, and that takes them away from their work. Now, I understand people have concern, will my leaves get picked up? Are they going to be there all winter long? They are not going to be there all winter long. Our trucks will be picking up leaves well into December, until they finish. Currently, our bulk pickup is on its second pass through town. Our containerized pickup has already been through the entire town twice and is on its third pass through town. Again, it comes through more often. You will get picked up more quickly if you containerize. So that's the reason. I say it every year this time, but please, keep those leaves. And of course, I see a few people even who think, aha, well, I'll let the water drain. I'll put the leaves even farther out in the street. That's not the answer either. True, I see those. Please keep them on your lawn. They will get picked up. Your lawn will not be killed. Obviously, in the wintertime, the lawns are going dormant anyway right now. So, revaluation. A lot of people are curious about the revaluation process. Let me try to give a quick update on that, because about the end of this month, for residential properties, property owners will be receiving a tentative valuation notice. In other words, based on the work that our assessor and staff have done, it's our best estimate as to what the fair value is of your property, and that's based on the mailers that most of you received and sent back, maybe based on drive-bys for the rest of you. But that notice will come out around December 1st. In that notice, you'll get instructions on how to ask the assessor for an informal hearing, which will give you an opportunity to show her No, it really, you know, this information is wrong, or, you know, I only have two bathrooms instead of 2.5, whatever it might be. So you'll have that opportunity for an informal hearing. We'll have a couple months to go through that process, and then by law, the tentative assessment roll comes out on May 1st. That will take any changes that are made through those informal hearings into place. And then again, you have a couple of different procedures. I'm not going to go into all the details of those procedures, but at that point, after May 1st, there's a couple of procedures you can follow if you're still not happy with the valuation that's been placed on your home following the reval, to challenge that. Now, I just want to, I hear all the time, reval, that means my taxes are going to go up. No. Reval means that objective state-level analysis of our assessed valuations and the actual sale prices of property in Brighton indicate that actually our properties are more than 11% undervalued compared to fair market value. But that does not necessarily mean that if your property is valued in the revaluation 10% higher, that your taxes are going to go up 10%. In fact, a 10% increase in the valuation of your property is slightly less than the average increase based on that percentage from the state. So the budget process, and we've just gone through the budget process for 2018. I've talked about it probably ad nauseum, how we determine the budget and the open process that we use to do that is entirely separate from the valuation. The valuation simply determines how the tax levy is divided up among different properties, commercial and residential. And I'm focusing on the residential now because much of the commercial review process, that early stage, the more informal stage, has already been completed. But we'll be talking about that. There's a whole section on our town webpage on the revaluation. And our assessor, Elaine Ainsworth, and her staff are always very eager to answer any questions that people have. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. But that's, you know, a very important thing, and our last revaluation was 10 years ago. So we look at these quantitative numbers. When the state says we're 11% undervalued, that says to us, we need to make sure we do this reval so that all of our properties, as closely as possible, are fairly assessed. Okay, last thing I want to talk about briefly, but I'm really going to talk briefly because I think I'll let the chief really talk about this, is this past week, Chief Henderson and I had the opportunity to go to the middle school. You've probably seen the signs up in the 12 corners focused on pedestrian safety. We spoke to 3 assemblies at the middle school, the 6th grade assembly, 7th grade assembly, 8th grade assembly, focused on pedestrian safety, and I'll let the chief take it from there.
Supervisor, we talked to the young people about the feedback I was getting from the community, and in particular some of their parents, about the concern of the students walking in and around the 12 corners. There's no surprise, as I talked to the students, and we've talked about here, the traffic counts on Elmwood in the area of the 12 corners are pretty high, and they're increasing every day. So we talked about strategies. We talked about engineering, how the crosswalks have been redesigned. There's longer periods of time for the students to cross. Education, good safety methods, and finally we talked about some efforts that we're doing from an enforcement perspective in and around the 12 corners, in and around the school zones. And I mentioned to the young people that the education component seems to be failing because at the enforcement phase we're right around 60 tickets in violation of school zones and some of the pedestrian charges that we've written at the 12 corners. So,
and that's just in a few weeks.
Well, since we've been tracking it since the start of the school year, and, you know, what our goal in this is to educate the young people to be aware of, you know, vehicular traffic, not just at the 12 corners, but on their entire route to and from school. And I assured them that from our perspective, we were going to look at different measures. Our goal is education. Our goal is to get compliance so that the enforcement goes down. And they grabbed a video of us talking to the young people, and you know, I've been talking to our partners in Albany, in particular Governor Traffic Safety Council, and the initiative has been well received at the state level, and there's been some more discussion on some approaches. So.
Well, I appreciate you taking the lead on that and really trying some, you know, different approaches with the signage to get people's attention. It is very disturbing to see particularly people running red lights. I see that. It seems increasingly so. And that is just, obviously, you're putting yourself at risk, but you're really putting students, pedestrians of all ages at risk. And another group you're putting at risk who step up to the plate every day for our kids, and that's our crossing guards. Those men and women are in the intersection, and sometimes they are literally putting their bodies between cars and students. And we've seen or heard stories of crossing guards literally banging on the hoods of cars to get their attention. What they do is truly priceless, and the AAA over the years has recognized that service, but those crossing guards work through the Brighton Police Department. They're funded by the Brighton Police Department in their budget, and the service they provide to our students is invaluable. And one of the things I hope that they do, you know, because they're giving guidance to the students, and I hope that carries through to non-school hours when folks are crossing the street, that the pedestrians follow the rights of way rules that they learn from the crossing guards, but more importantly, that drivers do as well, that drivers don't try to make turns in front of pedestrians. That's the maneuver that is so scary, and those pedestrians have the right of way. But as we said, having the right of way isn't enough. See and be seen was the mantra. And make sure, as a pedestrian, you're looking out for yourself so that not only do you have the right of way, but you're certain that nobody is going to be coming through during that time. So it was a great program. Thanks for setting that up, and thanks to the school district, particularly the middle school, for participating. And that's all I have tonight. Matters of the town attorney.
I just have one matter. I don't normally discuss matters of litigation at the open session, but we received a decision from Judge Scott Odorizzi of New York State Supreme Court in our lawsuit that we joined in with the town of Irondequoit against the county of Monroe. So I wanted to share with you and with the community that we received a very good and favorable decision. As you may recall, there's been a long time practice of the county of Monroe guaranteeing and crediting the towns in Monroe County with the cost and expense of property maintenance or repair or demolition charges that are levied against vacant or dilapidated or abandoned properties in the various towns. And those charges get added to the tax bills, and when those property owners don't pay the taxes, the county pays the town that amount.
Or at least they have in the past.
Well, they have for a very, very long time, and they haven't stopped, and according to Judge Odorizzi, won't be stopping, because let me just give a little background. In December of 2016, actually right at the end of December of 2016, the county sent out a surprise tax memo to all of the towns and the town clerks around the county saying, well, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to guarantee or credit the collection of the maintenance and repair charges. They took the position that these were never taxes that we guaranteed to pay, and not only are we not going to do it in the future, but anything you've received, we're going to take that out of what you otherwise would be entitled to for sales tax revenues for this year, for the sales tax payments that were to be coming to the towns in the fall of 2017. Both the town of Brighton and the town of Arundecoit thought this was wrong, brought that issue to the county attorney's office. The county attorney's office told us essentially to go pound salt, so we took it to court. And I will tell you in brief summary what Judge Odorizzi decided. Judge Odorizzi decided that that tax memo that was issued at the end of December is void and annulled by the court's order, that the county is compelled to guarantee and credit the maintenance, repair, and demolition charges to the towns, that Judge Odorizzi decreed that the county is legally obligated to guarantee and credit the maintenance, repair, and demolition charges, that the county is restrained from decreasing the November sales tax distributions to the towns or any of the towns in the county. And essentially, we, the town of Brighton and the town of Arundecoit, I think got a great result on not only our behalf and on our taxpayers' behalf, but on all the towns in the county of Monroe. And actually, this decision has now been shared with the New York State Association of Towns because a number of counties around the state have looked to take this same position, and the Association of Towns is very appreciative of the efforts here. This may not be the end of the story, but we hope it is, and we hope that the county understands through Judge Odorizzi's decision what they must continue to do, and that they don't cost the taxpayers any further money or further grief by taking this on appeal, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Town taxpayers and county taxpayers. That
Town
obviously
taxpayers
that
and
appeal
county
would
taxpayers,
involve
that's
cost
right.
to the county. And I've talked about this repeatedly. We've talked about shared services. And we work with the county in some areas like snow removal and other highway work. We work with the state. We work with the city and towns around us. We keep the cost of government down by working together. Besides being bad law, as now Judge Odorizzi has told us, this practice was bad policy. What they were requiring, instead of one entity, the county law department, suing on tax, collecting these unpaid amounts, converting them into liens, and having a vehicle to sue if necessary to collect them or to collect them off tax bills,
Or foreclose on the property.
and ultimately foreclose on the properties. What they were purporting to do was say, we're not going to do that anymore. You town and you town and you town and you village and all of the municipalities, over 20 municipalities in the county, would have had to set up individual collection operations or simply kiss that money goodbye. So not only is it bad law, but it was going in the opposite direction. At a time when we talk about shared services and what a priority, and that's a way to keep the cost of government and keep taxes down, for some inexplicable reason, the county chose to go in the other direction. So I'm really pleased with this decision. Louise, sure.
Excuse me, the other towns must be so grateful that they're going to help pay the expenses that we've had in the lawsuit.
The town of Brighton has not had any expenses as I've donated my time thus far. And the town of Arundecoit is paying their legal fees directly to their attorney that they hired.
But seriously, if it's going to affect all towns, will they be magnanimous and?
At least one.
The town of Brighton and the town of Arundecoit are the only two named parties. We have asked, we did ask for participation from the Association of Towns that has a legal office. In the first round, they've declined, and we're hoping, as I said, that this decision stands and doesn't incur any further legal costs, so there will be no bill for the taxpayers of the town of Brighton to pay, and that's what our hope is. If this goes further, then we may revisit that issue both with the Association of Towns and with the town board. But right now, there's no legal fees, Louise, so that's all good.
I have had at least one of those other towns quietly thank us for doing that heavy lifting that they felt apparently political pressure not to get involved with. But again, Ken, thank you for the work you've done, and you did a great job. Counsel for Arundecoit did a great job. And
That was our former town attorney, Ed Primo,
Correct.
Attorney for the town of Arundecoit in this matter, and Ed and his legal team really did 90% of the heavy lifting on this. I was just sort of along for the ride, and
yeah, but you got great reviews.
got to.
For your oral argument as well. Thank you very much.
I get to throw my counter punches in court. That's what I do.
Great, thanks for that update.
That's all I have. Yeah.
Matters of the town clerk, Dan.
Well, you already spoke about the election, so I'll just say one person's inexplicable reason is another person's fiscal stress. So I have nothing else this evening.
Thank you. I think Dan is referring to the fact that the county, Monroe County, has been identified by the state comptroller as
You might connect the dots there
the
as
most
to why they felt
fiscally
the need they
stressed
couldn't
county
take on this
in
anymore.
the state of New York, which obviously, ultimately is not in the criminal sense, but it's an indictment of the fiscal policies that have allowed Monroe County's finances to become as stressed as they are. So, matters of the town board. Hearing none, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people, collective bargaining, and maybe we don't need to talk, well, I will just say litigation. I certainly was going to talk about that lawsuit, and we may still.
So moved. Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Aye. Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you for being here tonight. I don't anticipate coming back out after our executive session, so have a good evening. Our next town board meeting, I want to make note, is Tuesday, November 21st, instead of our normal Wednesday, because that would be the night before Thanksgiving. Tuesday, November 21st, right here at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, everybody. And thanks again, especially to our students, for sticking out through the whole meeting.